Hey guys, welcome back. I would first like to thank you all for 1,000 subscribers. I have reached the goal I had set. I'm very thankful for it, and as I promised, we will be doing a Wardriver by Jhewitt build tutorial, and we'll be giving away this Wardriver by Jhewitt to one of you. It'll go to one of my YouTube subscribers, so if you'd like to be entered to win it, just make sure you're subscribed. I'll give some more details on the giveaway at the end of this video. So, what is the Wardriver that Jhewitt came up with? This is what it looks like complete. Obviously, I have it in a case. But it is two ESP32s, a GSM unit, and a GPS unit. And with all of this, it gathers an LCD and a SD card reader. And through all this, it gathers all the information needed to upload Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, and cellular tower locations to Wiggle. Also, to study the data you get yourself, it will compile all of the data it gathers into a CSV. So, to start off, let's look first at wardriver.uk, which is the website wiki that Jhewitt has set up for this device. So on the welcome screen, you get kind of a little information about it. A project overview, source code, which we'll dig into this a little bit more in just a little bit whenever we flash our ESP32s, which we will do before we solder them onto the board. And then the getting started. So here's the component list, and we'll go over these one by one back over on the overhead camera in just a second. But there's not that many things here. So you can come to the wardriver.uk website and you can look at them here. But I will also have a link to where I got all of these parts, and I got all of them except for the PCB off Amazon. But I'll also link where to purchase the official PCB, which he has linked here as well. But one thing I want to note is Joseph Hewitt, or Jhewitt on Twitter, is still developing for this board. So even though he started it a few years back, he hasn't stopped. It's not like the Panaguchi where it hasn't been developed for officially in many years and therefore is running on a lot of old kernels and stuff. But he is still developing for this. So I wanted to show some of his more recent tweets. He is making it to where it will automatically update through the internet. I don't think he's officially released it yet, but he is working on it. And even to the point that the first ESP will flash the second one, and he has it down to 4 minutes, which to me, it's plenty of time. That's fine. It makes it more automated where you don't have to do two separate things. So just something I wanted to point out, and see, here's the ESP32 updating, I assume, over the air. But yeah, so if you like this project, you want to follow on, if you want to build it yourself, give them a follow on Twitter. Go to Wardriver UK, check this all out. Again, I'll have all the parts list and everything in the description as well, to where you can specifically buy some of this stuff from Amazon. Alright, let's take a look at the components now. So first you need the PCB that Joseph Hewitt had put together. There are ways to have other variants of it. For example, this one here is actually the Y-Spy from HackerBoxes, and essentially these two devices are exactly the same. The boards are just laid out slightly different, but they run all the same code and everything else. So we have the PCB, and then we have two ESP32s, and we'll label one. In fact, let's go ahead and label it now so that we don't forget, because we need to make sure we know which one goes where. I'm going to label this one A and this one B, just with a permanent marker if you got one. That way we can know which one goes to which spot. We then have the SIM 800L module, which will allow the Wardriver to see cell towers and be able to mark and notice them. If you used Wiggle like I've shown in some of my previous videos, you notice that your phone can see the cell towers and will mark them for the Wiggle database. We then have the GPS module and its antenna that is used to give GPS location or coordinates to this. One thing that Jhewitt is working on being able to triangulate its location off of the SIM unit. This is the antenna to the SIM unit. We then have an SD card reader, a thermistor, so it'll keep up with what temperature pretty much inside of this enclosure is, because obviously this will be soldered to the board. And then we have a little LCD to kind of show you what it sees, and we'll look a little more closely at this when we get to the end, whenever I show you how to get it all connected. We then have a couple of SMA or IPEX to SMA leads and two antennas. Again, I'll have all this linked in the bio, or linked in the description. But with all of this now, let's get to the next part, which is we are going to flash these two modules. Alright, first thing we want to do is we want to get these ESP32s flashed. To do so, let's first go to the GitHub repository and get everything downloaded. Again, I suggest going to wardriver.uk, the homepage, source code, going directly to his GitHub. Once you're here, and we'll go through this together, you want to select the releases here. This will be the most stable, the newest, most stable release that he has. So we're going to go to the releases, and we're going to download the source code.zip. I am doing this on a Windows machine. So once we got it downloaded, we will unzip it all. And we'll go to the page. In here, we'll have another README, which will be the same stuff we'll go through in just a minute. License, and then we have board A and board B. So let's go ahead and open up the INO for board B. And you'll open it in the Arduino IDE, and this is what it'll look like. So let's get back over here and go back one page and start looking at kind of his instructions for flashing. Try to make it as simple as possible, but we will follow his instructions. So first we need to add the ESP32W, the WROOM 32U chip to the board manager. So we can take this link here, go to File, Preferences, Additional Board Managers, and you'll see I actually already have this one in here. But if it was not already in here, you would just go to a new line, or if there's nothing there, and paste it in. But since I've already got it in there, I'm going to just delete this line, just cancel it, and OK. So I've got that done. Then we want to go and install the board. So we'll do board manager, and you're going to search ESP32, and you will install this. I already have it installed because I've done it in the past. So now we need a handful of libraries. So once again, we'll go to Tools, Manage Libraries, and a similar page to what we just opened up with the boards will pop up. Now we're going to go in and install all of these. So let's start with micro NMEA. Install it just by hitting install. Even though I think I have all these installs, I'm still going to go ahead and go through them all just in case the code has changed enough. So Adafruit GFX library, I have it installed. Oh, but there's an update. Let's go ahead and update it. Although you notice, I just thought of that. I didn't think of this. Okay, so 1.11x, so the newest is fine. But you do want to make sure you're following the same versions he's using. So after Adafruit GFX, we want to do the SSD 1306. Once again, I have it installed, 257, so we're good there. Then we want one wire. If I remember correctly, some of these were kind of hard to find exactly what was needed. Okay, so we have one wire. When you're installing them, again, check the version, and then also check the author. So we're good there. And then the final package we need, or library, is gparser. It's installed. So once you get all those installed, next we're going to start flashing the boards. So it says if using the official PCB, the code in B, so our B board, corresponds to the board soldered above the silkscreen text made by Joseph Jhewitt. So the bottom board here that goes right here is B. The source file for A, or the ESP labeled A that we've labeled, will go here. And he states that you can flash them while they're in the board. That's perfectly fine. However, he does suggest flashing them before you solder them in, just so you can make sure they're good. The link I have to these in Amazon is actually a 10-pack. So or a multi-pack, I don't remember exactly how many is in it. But it'll give you plenty to kind of, if one's bad, you can fix it. If something's wrong with one or whatever, flash them before, make sure everything works. You can put them in a breadboard if you want to go that far. Me, if it compiles, I call it good and then I solder in. So hopefully that's good enough. But let's go ahead and get A flashed. So once we're back over here, now we need to set our board information. So it's going to be a board, ESP32 Arduino, and it is the ESP32 dev module. So just that one. Go back to tools. We have a lot more options now. The upload speed is 92.1600, 240 megahertz, Wi-Fi Bluetooth, flash frequency 80 megahertz, flash mode DIOD, flash size 4 megabytes, 32 MB, partition scheme is minimal SPIFFS, 1.9 megabyte app with OTA, that one. And you may not have to change any of these. I was playing around with some other projects the other day, so I had to change some of this stuff. PS RAM is disabled. Arduino runs on core 1. Events run on core 1. And the rest we'll call good. Oh, and he has the instructions for flashing from binary. Interesting. When I get around to testing that, I'll make an update video on this, but we're not going to cover this in this video because I haven't even tried it. Alright, so we have it done. We are in the A file, upload. Just notice though, it may fail because I didn't choose a board. Not board, I didn't choose a port. And we're on COM7. Alright, it uploaded no problems. So now we're going to disconnect that board, which was board A, connect board B, and then we will go back over here to the Wardriver folder we downloaded, go to folder B, open up the INO for it. We can close A now. 7. So let's go ahead and attempt to upload it again. Alright, it got all uploaded. So now let's move over and start getting some things soldered. Alright, for now we're going to put our ESP32s just up here to the side. Get our soldering iron turned on and heated up. If you have helping hands, that'd be great. They come in handy. I do not, so we're not going to use them. So first thing we need to do is go ahead and install the temperature sensor and the diode, not the diode, sorry, the resistor that goes with it. In the instructions, assembly instructions, you see a tan resistor. I don't have a tan one, mine's a blue. They're the same resistors. Just get what you can get. So with this temperature sensor, you see it's kind of the shape of a D or an arch or tunnel, whatever you want to call it. It's going to match the shape of the D on the printed on the board, and we will solder it right here in these 3 holes to the furthest side right here, and then the resistor will go in those 2 holes. So go ahead and get it in, and let's get it soldered. Do a little bit of flux. Obviously I'm not time-lapsing this particular soldering job just because of how small and short it is. This will be one of my longer videos just because I'm going a lot more in depth on this tutorial. But we got a little bit of flux, a little bit of solder. Get it all soldered all in nicely. And once it's soldered, you can take your flush cutters and snip the leads. It'll make us a little pile there. Now let's get the resistor put in right next to it. Again, get a little flux. I love this flux pen. Makes it so easy. And get it soldered. Trim the leads. And there we go. We got our first small components added to it. Now let's see what's next. Next is the GPS module. So that's one thing about this board is it does have the GPS module mount to the bottom, whereas in the Y-Spy, if you go back and look at the video I did on this, everything is soldered on top. It's actually a really nice little layout. But let's get the GPS module soldered in. We'll go ahead and time-lapse this. But what we will do is we will first solder on these header pins here, and then we will solder this in, covering the GPS unit right there like that. So let's get that done. Alright, now that we got the GPS module soldered in, we have to decide if we want to do this. Some people will leave these pins long, let them stick out. I don't like them long. I want them trimmed. To me, they're just asking to be shorted when they're this long. So we need to cut them off. Word of warning, safety glasses, protection is definitely needed. These things come off with a lot of force. I've actually got 2 spots the other day from the, what was it? I guess it was the Hackerbox Battle Axe badge. that two of these pins from these style pins embedded into my hand in two different spots, just trying to keep them from flying off. And of course, I'm going to do it some more. Just take your flush cutters and cut them. Those actually didn't come off with that much force, but they can. So just something to be aware of when you're taking them off. And we will have a lot of them. So the next thing we want to solder after the GPS is the micro SD card reader. Okay, so with the SD card reader, it will go on this side, and we want to make sure we line up the 3 volt and the ground. 3.3 volt and ground. So it'll actually be upside down. And one thing that Joseph Jhewitt suggests, and I do as well, just from the previous boards I've built, is once you get this in, kind of have a up tilt to it. Maybe not that extreme, but pretty close to it. So what we're going to do first is just solder these pins to the the SD card reader. So to get the SD card reader at an angle you're happy with, this is how I suggest to do it. Just solder one of the legs on, and then from there you can just heat that one leg and adjust it as you want. Just be careful not to touch that leg. So see, I gave it a slight up tilt. There's really not anything that's going to get in the way other than the sim module, and it'll sit pretty so that you should have plenty of room right there to get it. So let's get the rest of them soldered. And I do want to note that with the SD card, he does suggest not using anything larger than a 16. He says there are some issues with the 16. But let's get the sim module done now. So first thing we want to do, you can connect an antenna to it through this little port there. But the first thing we want to do is connect the antenna, or solder the antenna, just right there, and we'll have it run diagonally across the thing. But one thing I learned on putting together the Y-Spy is this antenna works best if it's not actually touching anything. So let's just get a little solder on it. So now we want to get the rest of these soldered in there, which we need to remove one of the pins. Want to get that soldered right in there. You'll notice that it is, so I am soldering it on the same side that we put the antenna on. The coil antenna mounts right under the other antenna connector, so easy enough. And the SIM module fits right there. It does pop off the side a little bit, but that's fine. The 3D printed case I use for it works just fine like that. Just make sure that we can get an SD card in there, no issues. So next, I believe it's either going to be the diode or the LCD screen that we solder on. So it's going to be both. I have seen this part really mess up many people because the diode is directional. So we see that there's an arrow pointing to the right. We want the black line in this diode here on that side. We want it on the right side. So it'll look just like that. So there's two ways we can go about soldering the LCD screen. I myself like to just directly solder wire onto here and here. It's very simple. Just follow what goes where from here onto here. So we have VCC or 3 volt, ground, SCL, and SDA. And then once we get all that soldered on, we'll be good. I have some of this, what do you call it? Like electrical wire, I guess. So the silicone coated electrical wire. We're going to get a good couple inches of it, of each, 4 different colors. It's always good to have black and red for your ground and power. And then I'm going to use blue and green for data. So the nice thing about this silicone wire is it's super easy to strip. Okay. So let's solder the red for 3 volt, black for ground, and this is where we need to remember Let's do SCL for green. And SDA for blue. So after you get them attached to the board, they're going to tuck under the ESP once you get it on, but we'll see that a little better here in just a little bit. But now we need to get it attached to the LCD, and I want to come in from the back. That's it. That's the LCD wired up. Now, the last two things we have to solder, and we're done, are A and B. So as we stated earlier, B is going to go down here. Uh-oh. So this happens a lot on these boards. From what I can tell from shipping, these pins get bent. But just bend them, straighten them out, should be good. Alright, let's get B down here to cover up the made by Joseph Jhewitt. As you can see, that's not always easy. It took quite a bit of effort. Just these pins not being completely straight when they were soldered on from the factory makes them fit real tight. So what we want to go ahead and do is let's just get a couple of them soldered just to get it held in place. Alright, we got two of them soldered. And then one thing I want to show you, for A, we got to be careful. Because we've got these wires here. But we also, oh look at there, got another bent pin. It's always the ones on the end that get bent like that. So with this back A, this particular ESP here, what I have found the best way to solder this one on, because it needs to be tilted back just a little bit. Obviously you have your LCD cable, but also you want to be able to plug in a board. So it's best, I found, to plug in a board and then just adjust it as best you can. So now I have USB plugged in and it's not touching this other board. So I like that spot. So let's get some of these soldered on so that it doesn't move. So now you can kind of see that that board is angled all the way down. But that allows room for the cords for the LCD to come out and room to plug in A again if needed. So now I'm going to solder the rest. All I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through and solder every single pin for these ESP32s, even though I could probably just solder the pins that we use. I'm going to go ahead and solder them all. Alright, so that's the soldering portion of the Wardriver. Let's get all the antennas hooked up, a 16 gig SD card in it, and then get it powered on for the first time, and I will show you what exactly that looks like. There's a little bit of setup you're supposed to go through whenever you first power it on. So we got it all done, all plugged in. Now your first boot, you will have to go to a web address. You'll connect to this wirelessly, and then you'll go to a web address to access it. Just get it plugged in. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it says starting the version, and it says connect to wardriver.uk. And then it gives the IP address of 192.168.4.1. It's go ahead and get this protective peel off. So to get there, what you're going to do is you're going to go to your computer, go to your wireless connections, search for wireless, and you want to connect to the wardriver.uk. That pops up. This one specifically, so whoever ends up winning this one, comes up as wardriver.uk-3123. You're going to connect to it. And the password is wardriver.uk. Then you're going to go to 192.168.4.1. And I'm not actually going to set this one up because, like I said, this will be for whoever it is to connect to themselves. Oops, there we go, another typo. 192.168.4.1. And this is where you will sign in at. Provide the credentials of the Wi-Fi, your home Wi-Fi that you wanted to connect to, so that when you first turn it on, you have a certain amount of time that you can log on to it and pull all the data off of, which I'll show in just a minute on my actual Wardriver. And then you can also have a backup Wi-Fi, so after you set up this first one, it'll give you an option to set up a backup. But this is what it's like when you first power it on. And as soon as you get this filled out, and you can even continue without network, then you can start Wardriving. So let's go back over here to the overhead. We'll see that it says that there's a client connected, so we know that it works. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect from this. And now we're going to power up the Wardriver I typically use, mine that I drive around with. And we'll see it goes starting, power cycle now to reset. So 192.168.4.35. So this is the hard part, is catching it within the window to get everything. And I did. So this is what it looks like after you've been Wardriving. You come in here, and then you can just download all of the CSVs which it does want to do one at a time. It is kind of slow. But anyway, I'll save the rest of them later. You can download your CSVs from here. And then from here, get signed into Wiggle real quick. You can take those CSVs, go to Uploads, upload a file, choose a file, choose a file, open it, send, and you can upload multiple files. So it'll upload that one file, you close, upload again. Even though it says there's a file there, you'll just come in and you'll select your next one, send, and there you go. We've got 2 files processing. These are 2 smaller ones that I did. I need to download the rest of them and finish uploading them. But that is how you get the data from your Wardriver into Wiggle through this screen. Which it looks like that the screen may be open all the time now. Used to it wasn't. But let's go back over to the overhead and I'll kind of show you what the screen looks like while you're Wardriving. So I can't get a very good view of that. But all it really does is it tells me how many Wi-Fi's are around me, the temperature, and it is just in Celsius. If you have GPS lock, if you have GSM position, how many Bluetooths are around you, and how many cellular towers are around you. And it also gives the date, if it's even correct, which it looks like it is, so it gets its date and keeps it pretty well. So before we talk about the giveaway, which will be essentially just this with antennas, I want to show off this 3D printed case real quick. So this case is a mixture of 3 guys technically if you include me. I have made some modifications to it. I think I can't remember any of the names of the guys that did these, who designed these cases, but it holds everything together real nicely. It's got the case, or it's got a place for the screen, you've got the air holes so it can breathe. And it's held together using these M3 bolts, which I really like. I like that it's held together with a little bit of hardware rather than just snapping together, because you know how easy it is to snap 3D prints. But these cases have gone through a couple of iterations. For example, when I first started Wardriving with the Wardriver, you had to hot glue this screen onto the lid. But the guy one of the guys, I don't know if he's the original designer or the one who did one of the mods to it, finally added a piece so that you can just have it bolted on, which to me is so much cleaner. And then, so you've got your lid, you've got your antenna ring, and then you've got your base. There's nothing super fancy about the base. The antenna ring that everybody else has put out is set up so that you hot glue your GPS antenna in. But I came in and made a revision to this ring, they call it the antenna ring, so that it has an actual place to put in your GPS. And it makes it so it's all in a nice, easy to use. If you don't want to connect to it by web, you would have to take it apart about this far, maybe a little bit further, and pull the SD card out of right here yourself. But connecting it to the web is plenty easy. And then everything just bolts right back up. So let's talk a little bit about the giveaway now. In this giveaway, I will be giving this particular Wardriver, the one I just completed, away. And I will print off a case like I've showed off for this one. But whoever wins will have the option to choose green like this, red, purple, red, purple, pink, brownish gold, white, black, or blue. Those are the colors of ABS I have, and we'll print these cases off for you. I'd also be okay with doing something like this, where you've got accent color in the middle of all those colors that I sent. So that's what will be included to whoever wins this giveaway. Entering for this giveaway is simple. This will be to one of my subscribers. So if you want a chance to win this, all you have to do is subscribe to my channel. I will be posting regularly reminders about this giveaway in the next 2 weeks. I will give it 2 weeks from the time this video is uploaded until I pick a winner. And once I pick a winner, you will have 2 days to get back to me and help arrange shipping, which I'll pay for shipping. Don't worry about shipping. You won't have to pay it. But within those 2 days, if you don't get back with me, then I will draw another name and we will pick the next person as winner. So I am very grateful for all the support that's been shown so far. I hope to continue growing. I've got a lot planned, whether it be more hacker boxes, more war driving, WLED stuff, microcontroller stuff. I've got a ton of little just ESP32s. I've got nanos. I've got a lot of stuff that I want to work with. I'm really thinking about putting together a tutorial series on learning electronics, and it'll be more of a learn with me. So we'll go through different projects and electronic basics together. I'll put it together in a way that I'm learning it, but also teaching it at the same time. So that ought to be really interesting if you're interested in it. But again, final say, just thanks for all the support. I look forward to what's to come. I look forward to more videos. I look forward to interacting with y'all, whether it be comments on YouTube. I'm very active on Instagram. That's probably where I'm the most active. And even on Twitter. All that stuff is in my following, or in my description. I will have links to all this in my description. If you want to build your own, support Joseph Jhewitt. He's on Twitter. Great project. He's got a lot coming. He's still working on it. And he's working on some other war driving projects as well that if he releases it, or when he releases it, if he gets done with it, whatever, I will probably produce and make videos on as well. I think the last one I saw was a very similar size card, but it had like 12 ESP32s or 6 ESP30. I don't know. It had a lot more Wi-Fi scanning capabilities just from how much it can scan. So, signing off. Thanks. Get subscribed, like, and we'll see who wins in 2 weeks. Until then, I will continue posting normally. We'll see you next time.